Good morning. We'll get this briefing started, so if we can have everybody take their places. My name's Robert Ashby. I'm Planning Section Chief with Team 5. This is the operational briefing for September 30th. Please silence your phones and your radios. Hold any side conversations to a minimum. Also, if you can observe the COVID guidelines of wearing your face mask and social distancing. Just a quick update, the acreage of the fire is 307,051 acres and 44% contained. And I'll turn the rest of the time over to Shannon for a situational update.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Shannon Prather, Operations Trainee for Incident Management Team 5. Okay, so I'm going to start up at the top yesterday. Division November, we had some fire growth and some pockets fill in up here on the Kaiser Pass Road. Multiple spots over the road, south side of the Kaiser Pass. Crews were able to work late into evening last night, pick all those up. They're still out there mopping up right now. So it's a good success and win. We're continuing to hold it. Brought fire closer to the 05 road at the intersection. Then this fire over here on the 05 by the meadow over here to the west is starting to close in a little bit more too. So this is going to be an operational priority here today. Moving down into Papa. Fire looked good, no fire growth in Papa. A good mop up done along the edge coming up out of Huntington Lake, secured up into the rock screes. So we're all looking good in there. Priority is going to be to keep that fire in place where it's at and continue the mop up efforts. Took a big flight yesterday all around Papa, Romeo, and Sierra. A lot of broken ground out there and a lot of unburned pockets of fuel still that could make some runs towards the line. Crews are in there working hard to mop those up, seek and destroy, but no fire growth on the eastern edge of the fire. So we're looking really good in there. So crews will continue into Romeo and to Sierra, mopping up, getting in there and finding those areas of heat and securing that. A lot of service calls as the repop continues. We're answering the calls for smokes or stump holes. Nothing really threatening any kind of line right now, but our crews are out there vigilant and responding to any kind of those public service calls. Moving down onto Victor and Whiskey and X-Ray, pulling a lot of the hose out from the interior hose lays out to the edge of the line, main line. That's just in case, keep it there for another day or two. But most of the lines are looking really good, continuing to secure some internal pockets of smoke and heat that just caused some nuisance for some of the residents. But end of report. Thank you very much. Have a good shift.
Next, we'll have weather with Mark.
Good morning, Mark Pellerito, incident meteorologist. So we're starting to get in the part of the heat wave where the inversion's starting to get a little stronger. We're getting more smoke trapped under it. And so that may suggest stability, right? It's true in a sense. Yes, there is a little bit of a lid on this fire with this inversion. However, that does not mean that the lid cannot be penetrated. And so that's something we're going to be watching because it is still very hot, still very dry. With the heat and the dryness and the sun hitting the slopes, like for example, say a south aspect, you can have an updraft riding up that slope and poking through the inversion. If you get through the inversion, it's a little more freely mixed up there. So we got to watch that closely. But yes, with the inversion, there is more smoke. Around 1200 to 1400, that smoke will start to thin out. There's a little more shading because of that smoke, so the edge may be taken off of the upslope, up canyon winds just a little bit. Still, you will get upslope, up canyon as the day carries on, and you may have occasional aligned gusts to around 15 miles per hour. And then tonight, the usual downslope, down valleys get going again. One thing about the inversion as you go into tonight is the inversion itself will be lowering in elevation, and so those thermal belts will get more enhanced. The recovery on the humidity department will be even poorer. We had recoveries overnight mostly in the 20s to lower 30% range. That may be down a smidgen for this coming night. Humidity levels today, again, like yesterday, will dip into the teens to low 20% range. So that is something to be aware of as well. Still hot and dry for several days on end. And remember, if there's something that happens in the weather and you're like, why is this happening? This is not what he said was going to happen. You know a guy. I'm right on the forecast, page 3. There's a direct phone number right to me. You can text it, you can email me. That's on there too. So just get in touch with me and we can figure this out together. Thanks.
Jeff Shelton with Fire Behavior.
Good morning, Jeff Shelton, Team 5 Fire Behavior. So you're here from the IMET that's going to be continued, warm, dry, and smoky. So let's talk about the fuels. The fuels that are out there have been just marinating in this dry air all summer. We haven't had any rain in a long time. And in addition, we're getting recoveries at night at a place where usually the humidity gets down to at the hottest part of the day. And it's been doing that for days on end now, okay? And we're looking at it moving out even a couple more shifts. And so the effect of that is that all the fuels are available. Anything that can burn, if it is impacted by fire, will burn. The ERCs, which is an index for you guys who may not be familiar of it, is an index that tells us how much energy is available in the fuels to be passed along. And we kind of track it year over year. And it's at the 97th percentile, has been for a while, and it's parked there and it's not going anywhere. So at the 97th percentile, that means only 3% of the days historically have ever been worse than this. So you may not be seeing a lot of fire in the sky, but the fuels have a ton of potential out there. Anywhere that there's fire that impacts these fuels, it's gonna get going. Now, with our probability of ignition, you know, how receptive our fuels are, we're looking between 90% with unshaded skies. Now with the smoke shading, you're gonna get down to, at the worst, if it's completely shaded, 60%. So it's gonna roll between 60 and 90% throughout the day. So you're gonna have to really watch where you are to determine that. And so just understand that if you get fire moving, it's gonna move lateral, but it's also going to move vertical. So if you have any torching that you're seeing on your division, fire starts climbing into a tree, and it wasn't doing it before, you need to stop and say, okay, what was the mechanism that happened? Now, and because this is happening, a crown fire always starts with a single tree torching and then moves along that way. So you really have to respect that tree torching. It's time to take a tactical pause there. With these dry air, the burn period is starting earlier and going later. Yesterday it turned on. It was still smoldering, active surface fire early in the day, but then around probably 1300, 1400, things started to wake up. You started hearing operations talking about the spots they had over the line. That's going to be another continuing story throughout the day. The other thing with fire spread with this receptive fuel is rollout. A lot of these areas, the fire has been parked in a consistent position for days. Those fuels that are sitting there that were stable, sitting on that hillside that have been smoldering, they may not be stable today. You may be driving by them. You got to account for what happens when that log then rolls out and gets below me into the green, because it will find legs at that point. So what I'm expecting for fire behavior today is a moderate intensity surface fire that's just going to slowly and incrementally move across the landscape until it finds alignment. When it finds alignment with slope and maybe a stringer of fuel, it's going to be intense. It's going to be beyond direct attack guidelines for sure. We talk about basing all actions on current and expected fire behavior. Today is one of those days where you can't just live in the now. You can't just sit out there and go, what I'm seeing now is what I'm going to see throughout the day. You got to game it out, look at what's going on and where the fire might go as the day gets warmer and all these fuels are just ready to go. If you have any questions, please find me after briefing. I'll be right over here ready to answer anything you got. Thanks.
Next up, we'll have John Goss with the operation assignment.
Okay, good morning. So we'll do our roll call, work assignments, and then priorities for the day. So for operations, today we have Alex McBath and Jim McDougall. With the trainee Shannon Prather. Okay, Night Ops Steve Burns, who was up at China Peak. And for Planning Ops, we got Don Fraguglia. And myself as a trainee in Branch 20. And all the resources up in Branch 20 are all at China Peak. But we've got Ernie Villa as Branch 20. Division November, Vic LaFour. Division Papa, Hidalgo. Division Romeo, Olson with the trainee of Allen. And we have a night division, which is in addition to tonight. Jesse Knox will be the night division November. Moving down here to the lower country, Branch 25 and 29, we got Mr. Dunham. SU, we've got Whitwer, Victor Whiskey, Pendarvis. And X-Ray Zulu, Morales. And repopulation, Mr. Bowman. Mitigation, Fleming. And staging today will be unstaffed, so that's a scratch there. We will not have Mr. Hill in staging. And last but not least, suppression repair, we have Wade and trainee Borello. Okay. Okay, work assignments. I'll go ahead and start up in Branch 20 days, so Division November. So a couple of things. They've got a multi-effort going on. So you heard about the Kaiser Pass Road that we got some spots yesterday, so they'll continue to hold the Kaiser Pass Road. Also, when opportunities present themselves, they'll put some fire on the ground and drag it west towards the Stump Springs and the Kaiser Pass intersection there. Last night they did that operation as the sun went down, because as soon as those winds switched, the conditions were a lot more conducive to put some fire on the ground there. So if those opportunities present themselves tonight, they'll continue burning to the west on the Kaiser Pass Road. Also, 2 spots were identified yesterday via infrared that were across the South Fork of the San Joaquin River. They're in the middle of some rocks there, so as soon as we can get some folks down in there, or the air opens up that we get some aircraft in there, they'll be assessing a good way to get into those 2 spot fires that have been identified. And those are closer, more below Mount Mono Hot Springs, so not down in the confluence of the San Joaquin, closer to below the Mono Hot Springs resort there. Okay, moving on to Division Papa. So we're calling this the Horseshoe and Papa there, if you're curious or if you hear that terminology there. And as we heard from Shannon this morning, the piece leaving Huntington Lake and going up towards the Kaiser Wilderness there, so we'll have some crews in there today, making sure that stays in place. We're hoping that's going to be successful there on checking that fire spread to the east there. Also, Papa will have some resources coming in through Sample Meadow and looking to pick up some and reestablish some old lines from the Aspen fire in 2013, because the goal there is to kind of check the top part of the horseshoe here, and in a sense that will stop the spread, and then also trying to minimize the amount of acres that are burned inside that horseshoe there. So we've got one of our hotshot crews out there that does have the UAS technology. It flew yesterday, kind of scanning basically a lot of this stuff out here that has not moved in the last 6 or 7 days. But it is, they did pick up enough heat that it's not out by any means. But there was enough intel that they got that it is still some heat, but it's just not moving too quickly. Moving down to Division Romeo. Same thing with those folks in there. They will continue to hold, secure. A lot of unburned islands that were unburned are now starting to consume just based off the weather we've been getting the last couple days. In fact, they had a small unburned island closer to 168 that they were in there yesterday picking that up there. So that will continue on for today. Okay, moving into Branch 25 and 29. And I'm going to kind of lump all the divisions there from Sierra, Union, Victor, Whiskey, and X-Ray. You heard about the service calls, so that work will continue today as the folks are repopulating, getting a lot of calls, whether it's a tree or a pile of brush or what have you there. So the service calls will continue, as well as starting to pull hose and continue to secure that perimeter. For the repopulation group today, the repop group, today will be the last day. They'll be closing shop up. They got some work in Shaver to do, but that group will disappear for tomorrow's shift there. The mitigation group, same thing. So they got a little bit of work left today to do with the infrastructure and roads, and that group will also disappear after today's shift. And then finally, the suppression repair definitely have their hands full. We're still finding dozer lines that weren't captured initially there. So as we find more stuff, then that suppression repair list keeps growing and growing there. So those folks will have their hands full today. A couple areas in specific, they'll be in South Shaver, Southeast Shaver, Blue Canyon, and Vincent. And Vincent's off of Peterson Mill Road there. Okay, what else we got? Last thing, air ops. So we're pulling the helicopters out of Mammoth, getting them back over here on the west side of the Sierra Nevada. So we're going to have a combination of aircraft at Mariposa Airport and still here at Auberry Helibase. And let's see, we'll have 4 Type 1s available for bucket drops, as well as 5 Type 2s. And we do have some Type 3s if anybody's looking for a recon. All right, have a good day.
All right, just want to turn your attention to page 2 of your IAP for the management objectives and also the control objectives. The control objectives have changed a little bit. I'll read those to you also. Keep the fire north of Pine Flat Lake. Keep the fire south of the South Fork of the Merced River and the Minaret Range. Keep the fire east of Highway 41, and then keep the fire west of Mono and Silver Divide Range. Thank you. Brian with safety.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Brian Savage, Team 5 Safety. How's everybody doing? Another day. We're still here. All right, driving on this incident is still a big exposure to all of you. You guys have been driving up 168, and you know what I mean. There's a lot of public driving that highway, and they tend to drive pretty fast. So what I ask you to do is do your best to control the things that you can control in your driving. Keep your speeds down, be heads up for those drivers that are non-incident personnel that are driving way too fast, and expect the unexpected. On Highway 168 today, on the bottom section, that 35-mile-an-hour speed limit goes away. It goes back up to 60. So the public will continue to drive 60 today again. So please, we'd rather you drive at a safer speed, keep those speeds down closer to 45, and expect the other folks to continue to drive the way they've been driving, unfortunately. So just be heads up of that. They're not publicizing that. It's just that you'll see the speed limits now posted at 60. Snags and green trees are still coming down and are going to continue to come down on this incident. Conditions consistently change every day. So where you're out there doing your hazard tree assessment yesterday, you go in there today, and now that snag that looked good yesterday is ready to come down. So continue to do those hazard tree assessments when you get to your work area, and reassessment's important. Be heads up where you park. Have solid LCS in place. The fire might move today. Expect it to be a day where that fire can get up and move big, and have plans in place and have backup plans to get out of the way and get to some good black if needed. Continue to do the good work out there. Everybody's doing pretty well. We did have an injury yesterday, a slip and fall, an uneven terrain. I believe the gentleman broke his tibia in 2 places. So it can happen out there when you least expect it. So I appreciate everybody's attention to that. Have a good day.
Next is medical with Jeff.
Good morning, everybody. So you've been hearing from everybody some of the things to be careful about today. Hotter, fire behavior, the smoke, may not have helicopters. So do me a favor. We talked about the 8-line. Take a pause today. Just make sure you got a good plan in place. We have medical staff out there to help you guys out, but we're not getting the fill. So today will be the last day for a lot of those guys. So ID the medical staff that you have in your units and come up with a good plan. CalMat, as we transition up to China Peak, they are going to be moving base with the National Guard up the street a little bit, but they'll still be down here. Up in China Camp, we have Med-El and a paramedic in camp for you. And with that, be safe. I'll see you tonight.
Next, we have logs. with
Good
Ken.
morning, folks. About the only time I get on stage is for introduction and changes. And today we have a change coming on. Tomorrow morning, we will not be briefing in this location right here. School's coming back in. They need to deep clean the place. We're vacating the buildings. The footprint will be moving over to the far side of the football stadium and what is in your map called the engine parking area. We will change that on the map in the IP probably starting tomorrow. This will be a full service camp here. You'll still have the MKU down below feeding, showers, everything else that's needed to keep the mission going. Times will be the same, but the briefing will be down in that location. The name of this camp will be called Sierra Camp. The ICP will be the Clovis ICP, so that's how we'll be addressing that. If you have any questions, please come by room 29. We can answer those. Thank you very much.
Next, we have agency comments with Dean Gold.
Good morning, Dean Gould, Forest Supervisor, Agency Administrator for a creek incident. Been going at this for a while now, coming up on almost a month. And some of you have been here throughout, some of you it's your second go around, some have just gotten here for a little bit. Regardless, where the incident's at right now, and as long as we've been going at it, it's real easy to start settling into a routine. Today's Wednesday, tomorrow will probably feel like Wednesday, and the day after. It just all kind of runs together, and that can be incredibly dangerous. So I ask, no matter what, please don't let yourself settle into just a daily routine. You get up, you eat, you listen to a brief, go out and do your thing. All this information is just information. Whether it's good information and valuable information, that's up to you. And do you do your job in making sure that all the other personnel assigned to this incident get this information? Please push it down to everybody to make sure that they get this. Safety did a good job of identifying some of those hazards and why I'm so concerned about folks settling into routine out here. The vehicle safety, that's been talked about. Snags, that's been talked about throughout. Now as we get into this phase of the incident, mop up, suppression repair. We got the whole another issue about stump holes, burned out roots that you just don't see, but are so easy to step into if you're really not mindful of what's going on. So again, every morning, please do that personal reset. One, for your own sake, personally, what do you want to accomplish today? You've got your own goals too. And then for the incident, totally redial back in. Make sure you've got your situational awareness up for that day, that shift. Thank you.
I see closing comments with Dustin Mueller.
All right, good morning. So I want to thank you guys for your hard work, effort, a lot of good things going on out there. The caring and compassion and the repopulation of the Southern Branch, a lot of good work. So we want to keep that up. It's getting closer to an end there. And then also for everything else going in from the repair side up into the firefighting stage of moving our anchor to the north and gaining containment on this thing. You guys are doing a really good job. It's a long fire season. We actually call it fire year now. It's going to be probably about 3/4 of the way through the year, and we'll just roll it over in December and keep going. So I want you guys to think about taking care of each other, respecting each other, and looking out for one another. Have a great shift.
All right, thank you. Just a couple of housekeeping items. Reference page 32 for the finance message on what you need to do for finance. Also, the human resources message is on page 39 of your IEP. Also, since this camp is going away and we are moving ICP down to Clovis, we do have a status check-in and a demob up at China Peak. So when you get to that point of demob, you'll start up there and then work your way down to the Clovis ICP. Any unassigned resources, go to the back table. We do have the division posters through the camp here. Go to your designated spot. Our next operational briefing will be at 0700 tomorrow morning. The cooperators meeting will be at 10 o'clock. That will be done by Zoom, and we can contact our liaison for more information on that. And our next planning meeting will be at 1700. Have a good shift.